Hey everyone, welcome to my channel or welcome back to my channel. My name is Alicia and in this video I'm going to show you how I made this really pretty tumbler using a calendar page. You know, I go around and I look at things all the time and I'm like, can I wrap that around a cup? Can I put this around a cup? Fabrics, papers, whatever. So the calendar that I have, I got from work. It was just one of those, they were putting the calendars down for everyone to take one. And so I started looking at the pictures. I'm like, these are so pretty. I wonder if I can put these around. They are the right texture and consistency as far as coating to put around a tumbler. So I'm going to show you how I did that. All right, stick around and I'm going to go ahead and get started. Let's get started with this cup. So I am using a 20-ounce straight skinny by Makerflow. This does not have any taper. I wouldn't attempt this with a cup that has a taper because it's just kind of a pain. So I have here my calendar page. I really like this one. It's super pretty with its purple and its flowers. It's very springy or summery. And so I am going to trim this down. I'm going to use these white lines as a guide. So I have this paper cutter that I'm going to use. And don't forget to measure the distance around your cup, because your cup is, you want to make sure the diameter is right in that you only overlap a little bit. You don't want to overlap too much. So this cup is, in measuring, this cup is 9 1/4. All right, so 9 1/4 for this one. So we do actually want to measure this way and make sure that I get my 9 1/4. So, all right, so 9 1/4 is here. So I can definitely cut. I'm going to trim this. So I'm going to like trim and trim and trim and trim until I get it where I want, because I don't want to trim too much. You know, you can always trim off some, but you cannot add. So once you do that trimming, that's it, you're done. So I'm gonna trim this. I love this paper cutter. It's so nice and easy to use. And like I said, I do want it to overlap a little bit, not a whole lot, but a little bit. So this is still gonna be longer than I need, but I'm hoping that this makes it short enough to where I can get it in this way, because it is a little bit like longer. So let me just, I actually want to get a bigger one of these. So I still got plenty of room. So I'm going to trim off a little bit more here. And just, you know, like I said, just keep trimming until you get to the point of where it's, you know, it matches your cup. All right, now it fits in there nice, because I didn't want it to not fit in there. I want it to fit so that it didn't, so that I make sure that I get a nice straight cut. Right, and I'm gonna get the top. I definitely don't want that hole. I don't want that hole on my cup, although we're gonna be glittering the top and the bottom, so that hole wouldn't have mattered, but you know what, I might as well just get rid of it. Okay, so I've trimmed this down, and I've just left with, you know, the white edges, which is fine. And I'm going to just wrap it, pre-wrap it around my cup for seam purposes. Because I want to make sure, that I have a nice seam. Because, you know, you are going to have a seam, but I want to make sure that it looks nice. So it is going to, no matter what I do, it's going to overlap a little bit. So I just got to decide which way I want it to overlap, which flowers I don't mind overlapping. So I think I'm gonna just overlap this way. So I have just a little bit of the leaf here that I'll overlap this way. So I'll just, let me get you in frame. That would help, right? Okay. So now I am gonna make sure that this is even, which it's pretty dead on. So I am going to set my cup down and I'm gonna let it open up. Yeah, look, check. See, that's, you can tell it's my work calendar because I got all kinds of stuff written on it. That's why you need to use a thicker paper, because if your paper is too thin, what's going to happen is you're going to see what's ever on the other side. I tried that with dollar store wrapping paper, and I found out really quick that you cannot use dollar store wrapping paper if it has the lines on the back, because guess what's going to happen? The lines on the back are going to come through. So I found that out. All right, so we're just going to apply our Mod Podge in a nice even layer, and I'm going to just wrap this like this, press it on. So your paper, if your paper is too thin, it's really going to wrinkle up a lot. Now, this paper is a little bit on the thicker side. It still did wrinkle a little bit, but that's okay, because the wrinkling was so little that once I did my extra coats of Mod Podge and then put the epoxy on, you couldn't see it. You really couldn't see it. So, you know, I was worried. I was like, oh, is it going to wrinkle too much? Is it going to, you know, is it going to like make it so that it's so wet that you're going to see it? And again, it was a little bit wrinkly, and like you could see that it was a little bit wet, but it did go away. So that's why I'm showing you guys this. But again, your paper has to be thick enough. And this is calendar paper. It's got some sort of like a coating on it, like, you know, and it's like waxy a little bit. So you cannot use the dollar store calendars, because you run into the same problem as you would with the paper, and that is that it is too thin. And so when you go to put it on, you're going to see whatever's on the back side of it, you're going to see that. So if you try to do it more inexpensive, it's just not going to work out for you. This calendar was a veteran's calendar that I got through work. And you know what? I glued down the wrong side. Thank God it's a little bit wet still, so I can pull it up. All right, you know what? I'm just gonna have to overlap it the other way, because I messed up. Because I'm blabbity blah blah blah, and I'm not paying attention, and I glued the wrong side down. That's okay. So I'm gonna get more Mod Podge on here, and then make sure you got full good coverage on here of your Mod Podge. And you're just gonna press it down. And somehow it came off. It like got off. So, yep. All right. All right, so I'm going to speed through this because I already did it once. So now I'm just fixing my mistake of somehow my paper shifted and the seam was like really off, like so off that it just wouldn't have worked even with putting the glitter on the top and the bottom. So I'm just going through this again, and I'm spreading my Mod Podge on and just pressing the paper down. I was lucky because the paper is thick enough that even though like the bottom coat kind of came off and stayed on the cup, that it didn't make a difference as far as you still can't see anything through the paper. So it worked out well. So just, you know, that's, you know, another reason why you need to use a better quality paper when you are doing this kind of a wrap. So the thin paper is gonna, you know, it's just not, it would have, if it was too thin, it would have ripped all the way through and I wouldn't have been able to save it. So I lucked out with this one. And now I'm going to let this dry for an hour or two before I move on to starting the seal. Okay, so this is nice and dry. It's been drying for like an hour or two. It's pretty warm today, so it dried pretty quick. And now I'm going to go in with my Mod Podge, and I'm just going to go over the entire cup. So I'm going to speed through this because, you know, it's pretty simple. Pretty cut and dry. You're just going to coat it. Just give it a nice even coat. Don't go too thick. And just make sure you get in all the seams up at the top and the bottom. So go in opposite directions. So put, you know, go sideways and then go up and down. You want to make sure that you get those edges sealed really well, because you do not want epoxy getting underneath it and lifting it, or even making it look wet, or perhaps even bubbling it. So you're just going to go on the bottom and the top, get those seam, the you know, back seam, make sure you get that really well. So go with it and then go against it, get it in there. So you're going to do this 3 times. Let it dry about an hour between each coat, and then let it dry overnight before you move on to the next step. All right, so this cup is really dry. It's been drying overnight, and now I'm going to tape off the top and the bottom so that it's ready to spray paint. And so I'm going to use the white line as a guide for my tape. Now, a little trick that I use, I don't want the tape to be super sticky, because I found that if the tape is straight off of the roll and super sticky, that sometimes it pulls up either the Mod Podge or even it's pulled up epoxy on me. So what I do is I put it on my clothes a couple of times and just and like de-sticky it, if that's even a thing. But and then this way it'll still be a good line for the cup, but it won't be so sticky that I'll have to worry about it pulling anything up. All right, so I didn't show you this step, but after I put my tape on, I did wrap the rest of the cup with saran wrap. And saran wrap, because it sticks to itself, it's clear, it doesn't really stick to the cup, so it's just easy to use. So I'm gonna leave the painter's tape on because I'm using that as a guide. I am applying my glitter using the epoxy method. You only need a teeny tiny little bit. You do not want it drippy, just enough to coat the cup. That's, you know, you're using that in replace of any Mod Podge or Tack It or any other adhesive that you would be using. The reason why I'm doing it this way is because I've got that nice line, and because it holds the glitter onto the cup better, so I will have to do less seal coats so the glitter doesn't travel in the future. And so the silver that I'm using is called Pixie Dust. It is a super pretty silver from Glitter Makes It, of course. Check the description below for a discount code, and I'm going to sprinkle that on. I'm only going to need one coat because I sprayed the silver. Oh, and I used Rust-Oleum's metallic silver. That was the color that I used, and I will, you know, put that color in the description below so that you have that. And so I'm just going to sprinkle it on. As soon as I am done with my glitter, I am going to take my tape off, and then I'm going to let it hang dry for about 2 hours before I'm ready to move on to my next step. All right, so my cup has been drying for an hour to a couple hours, and I'm going to go in and spray it with 2 coats of the Krylon Triple Thick, and then I'm going to let that dry for about an hour or 2 before I move on to epoxy. This cup is nice and sealed, and it's ready for its first coat of epoxy. The glitter is on there really well, so I don't expect that it's going to travel. But if it does, I'm okay with that because, you know, a little bit of sparkle throughout the flowers is totally fine with me. And I actually think that there is some in there, but I'm totally okay with that. So I'm using 20 mLs of epoxy. I am using the Stone Coats Fast Set, and I will link that down below. I'm going to put a nice even coat on, and I'm going to let this turn for about 2 hours before I am ready for my next step. Don't forget to torch once you're done applying your epoxy. I do a torch right after I'm done, and then I wait 5 minutes and I torch it again. And torch over heat gun because torch is better at popping bubbles and heat gun is more for moving. Alright, so here I'm going to apply my pinstriping between the glitter and the actual, like, the paper. And so, you know, this is optional. You don't have to do it. I have this purple metallic vinyl, which I really, really love. I thought it would look really super pretty on this cup. I cut it on my Cricut machine. It was 0.18 by 11. 11 is too long, but I trim it off when I get to the end of it. So you're just going to put this around your cup. You're going to pull it taut. Make sure there's no bubbles under there. Make sure that your surface is smooth before you start. I have 1 coat of epoxy on here, and that's all I needed to get it. It was nice and smooth. So just trim it at the seam. I'm not real great at doing it flush, so I do just a hair over. And so I'm putting a pinstripe on the top and on the bottom. Once I'm done this pinstriping, it's going to be ready for hopefully its final coat of epoxy. But you know, I rarely get a finished coat like off of just like 1 coat. It usually winds up taking me 2 coats. So either 1 or 2 coats, and then this cup is going to be done. Right, so the stripes are on, and I'm going to go first and clean it off with 91% alcohol and a coffee filter to minimize the lint on the cup. And I'm going to go in and I'm going to put between 20 and 25 mLs on this cup. In the end, it wound up taking me 2 coats as I thought it would, just because I didn't get good enough coverage over the... Hold on, Aria. I didn't get enough coverage over the pinstriping, so I went in. So it took 2 coats, but it is gorgeous now, and I will be back soon to show you the final product. And don't forget to torch to pop any bubbles. And then in 5 minutes, torch again. Alright guys, she is done. Look how pretty she is. I love the butterflies and the flowers. It's so springy and just something so pretty to look at. This silver glitter was the perfect glitter accent without overpowering it. And, you know, I really do like the foil pinstriping too. Everything just worked out so perfectly on this cup. It's just super, super pretty. You know, and I didn't put any sayings or name or anything on it because I thought just, you know, this by itself is just gorgeous. So, thank you all for watching. Thanks for sticking around. If you have any questions, please, you know, comment below. Make sure you check the description below. That's where I list all the products that I used or where you can find products. I have affiliate codes and discount codes below as well. So again, as always, please, you know, subscribe, give me a thumbs up, and thank you for watching. I will see you next time. Bye.